Hello, hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Behind the Workflow. My name is Simona Costantini.
And I'm Taly Mello.
And today we are joined by the absolute incredible Tahjma VanBuren, who is the founder of iMoves Management and host of the How to Be Seen podcast. She helps women-led service businesses stop spinning their wheels and start showing up with visibility that actually leads to connection and sales. And her signature framework, which I'm sure we'll talk about today, is content community commerce. So fascinating. I am so intrigued by this. And it's not just a catchy phrase, it's how she helps clients turn podcast episodes into nurture emails, social clips, SEO wins, and sales calls on the calendar. Our conversation today is brought to you by Northflow, the content planning platform that helps you skip the chaos and actually stay in creative flow. If your podcast lives across sticky notes, 5 apps, and one really tired group chat, Northflow gives you one clean place to plan, track, and collaborate on every single episode. Now back to our guest today. Tahjma's work blends systems thinking, deep storytelling, and a scientist's mindset when it comes to content. We're talking the strategy, repurposing at scale, collaboration, and what it really takes to be seen. Tahjma, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. You were so good at that.
Oh, thanks.
You see why she does that and not me?
One day I'm going to make Taly do it, though.
I'll get there.
You will get there. Tahjma, for those of us listening right now who may not know you yet, what is iMoves Management all about, and how did you create it and bring it to life?
Yes, so iMoves Management is powered by the thought that small faith makes way for big actions, and that comes with a multitude of things. I'm surrounded by women in business, and particularly my mom is a story that I typically go back to because I grew up with her, watching her make things happen, and I wanted to be the person that really could help her be in the spotlight so that she could do her zone of genius and I could run the back end side of things. So she was building her own website, she was managing all the marketing, and she's an event planner. And I kept seeing that in so many of the women that I interacted with, where they were having to step outside of their zone of genius in order to make things happen for themselves and for their business and for their family. And I said, okay, we know a couple of skills. Let's figure out how to help these ladies. So at some point that evolved into podcasting, largely because I think podcasts are, not I think, I know podcasts are kind of like marketing on steroids. You can create social clips, you can create email newsletters, all from you sitting down recording for 40 minutes to an hour every week. And that produces so much content for you, which is really a lot of the pain points that a lot of these business owners are experiencing.
And podcasting continues to rise as the go-to content format, especially among Gen Zs and also millennials. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, according to Edison research, over 62% of US consumers are podcast listeners. So let's start there. You've said your journey started when blogging was fading basically and YouTube was rising. What made podcasting feel like the right platform for you when other formats were fading?
I think largely because in podcasting you can create a certain amount of intimacy that I don't see created with YouTube or blogging. It kind of puts it into a vacuum. I'm in the shower with people, I'm at the gym with people, I'm eating dinner with people from these specific episodes. And yeah, you can pull up a YouTube video, but there's something about being able to be plugged right into somebody's ear. It's like music, but for those that don't have a musical talent, you're able to use your voice, use your story in order to connect with people. And I think that's really what I doubled down on. My career background is kind of all over the place. My very first big girl job was in the nonprofit sector, and I was the youngest person in every single room I was in by like 30 years, at least 30 years.
Wow.
I was the one of 2 Black people, most times, one of 2 Black people or Black women in almost every single room I was in. So I was looking for community myself, and I found it in podcasting. So being able to cultivate those stories on my own podcast and that evolve into a business was really powerful for me. And I think that's why people are leaning into it now.
I 1000% agree with you. And, even what you just said, like, I think it was like a while ago, I remember doing this interview, and I used to say this often, like, so when you said that podcasting is the single most intimate relationship that you can have, I used to say that just in a different way, because it totally is. Like, people are choosing to take their headphones and plug you into their ears and take you wherever they're going, when they're sad, when they're mad, when they're happy, when they need help, when they need a break. And so it's like, I think about this all the time when creators say, oh, I only got 20 downloads, or I only got 50 downloads. But you helped 50 people through whatever it is that they needed to be helped through.
Yeah.
You helped 20 people shift their mindset,
Yes, 100%. And if you think about it, how many times have you heard somebody say, oh, my friend told me, but really they're talking about a podcaster? So you're creating this intimacy. You're able to move them along that experience a lot faster than what you might with social media. It's harder to turn off a podcast than switch to a different Instagram video.
Exactly. And like the shelf life is so much longer for a podcast. But what's interesting, what you just said there too, like I'm thinking to Emily on my team. So I run a production agency, like in addition to being part of Northflow, I run a production agency. And Emily on my team, she's the lead editor of my team. And we've done different episodes on our podcast for the business. And in those episodes, so she has been listening to these like very specific podcasts for years and years and years. And she'll buy product that they recommend. She feels like part of their journey because she's been through it with them from all the episodes. And so it's like if they recommend something, she's going to buy the thing because she trusts their opinions. There's so much credibility there. And I feel like this blends itself into your show, which is called How to Be Seen. And it's such a powerful show. It's such a powerful title. What inspired you to name it that? And what do you hope that listeners will walk away with when they listen to the podcast?
Yes, thank you so much. The podcast used to be called, in the first season, I called it Coffee Chats Podcast. And really that came from me saying, I know what I want to talk about. I know who I want to talk to. I just don't know what to call it. So I had to put a little bit of faith in action, turn on the mic and say, okay, welcome to, and whatever came out of my mouth is what it was. So it started with Coffee Chats Podcast. And in those conversations, I kept hearing over and over and over, either women that were desiring to be seen in business, in life, by themselves, by their partner, and women that were creating resources so that the version of them that wanted to be seen could have that resource, or the women around them could be able to do that for themselves as well, whether that was being seen with a website as a part of your sales partner. There's an episode about that. There's an episode about how are you getting through pre-diabetes in your space, because your health is impacting your business life, because that has to do with your stamina. So really dialing into the stories of how is it that you can be seen? What are the strategies that we can pull from that helps us be seen in the marketplace and in life? Because truly we're creating resources that help people solve problems.
Yes. And also, like, how to be seen. A lot of people, like especially business owners, they struggle with that, right? Like doing the right marketing and just be everywhere on all the social media and all of that. So it's not just showing up online, but it's also being seen for who you are and what you bring to the table, right? That kind of visibility doesn't come easy. We all know that, especially at the start. And you help business owners show up more intentionally online. So what are some of like the common mindset shifts you guide your clients through when they first start podcasting?
Probably the fact that it's not about you as much as we want to say that it is, or as much as we think that it is. Even in the strategies of how to be seen, it's not about us, truly. One of the main things is we think that we're so important and that we're all in our head. However, what you're offering to the world is the most important thing. So if you're a coach for lawyers and you're helping women that are lawyers beat burnout, or you're helping women who are crafting the best birthday party for their husband, whatever that thing is for you, we need to make sure that you are thinking, okay, in this moment, you are going to be seen, literally and figuratively. So let's jump over that hurdle, because the problem that you're solving first is most important. The people that are going to get the fruits of your labor is most important. So really, it's get over yourself for a second. It's not about you. It's about the problem that you're solving.
That's so true. This is such an interesting point too, because you are so right. You're going to be seen either way, and this is something that I share often with different clients, because people will be like, well, I'm scared to be on video. I don't want to be seen. What if someone, says something about whatever it is that I share? But then you think about it, and it's like, I was having a conversation with a client today. It's like, between now and then, whatever then the timeline is, the thing that you're going to do is the time is going to pass either way. So you can either take the action step and you can either do the thing, or you can get to 12 months from now or 12 weeks from now or, 12 days from now and have not done the thing that you wanted to do, watching everybody else do the thing that you want to do. It's like, it's never comfortable being seen. It's never comfortable putting yourself in a position of vulnerability in that way. But every single time I've done it, I've always found, and maybe you'll agree with this, like, it's always been worth it. You know what I mean? I can't think of a time where I didn't step outside of my, out of the box and have been like, oh, darn, I really wish that I didn't take that big leap of faith. Darn, I really wish I didn't.
Yeah, that's so true. Either you get what you actually wanted, or you learn something so don't do that again. Won't be sending that kind of email or saying that exact thing. But then even more to your point, as far as the time is going to pass, the time is going to pass in addition to the person that needs to hear your story and hear the problem that you're solving is going to go without because you are not sharing it. And how dare you?
Yeah. Yes, it is so true. And so in order to do all of these things, we need systems, we need workflows, we need ways to make the things that we're going to do come to life. And when we introduced you on the podcast at the top of the show, I had mentioned that you approach it with this scientific type of mindset, testing ideas, studying what works, iterating different things. That's really refreshing, because not a lot of people spend a lot of time testing and looking at data and pulling things back and trying again and redoing an idea or concept. So can you walk us through, your own process of how you plan a podcast episode from idea to publishing? And maybe for our agency listener people who are listening, what parts of that system could be applied to client shows?
Yes. So when I say the scientist mindset, I come from a background of human development and family studies. So it's in my nature to be studying people. If I'm at a coffee shop, I'm looking at, oh, why did they do that? What's going on? Oh, they didn't make that decision because X, Y, and Z. So really, first off, having that mindset of, okay, let me study my end user, let me study my end listener to figure out what is going to make them say yes, whether that yes is clicking this YouTube video, listening to this episode. So I'm always starting with, what questions are people already asking? Not necessarily what I want to talk about, because you can throw in a couple of pieces of that, but you can go on Reddit. You can go, and honestly, you could probably ask ChatGPT, what are people asking AI about my particular niche? And those questions is where you're able to pull content ideas. Even some of your competitors, go to their comment section and figure out, what are people asking as follow-ups to this post that they just made? Starting with, what are people asking? What problem can I solve? Because every episode that you're putting out there, every piece of content that you're putting out there, truly, you're solving some version of a problem, regardless of how big or small it feels. So from there, I'm then going through the different search engines, which is where some of this SEO portion comes into play. I'm going through the search engines and asking, what exact keywords are people asking or putting into Google or Yahoo or whatever, Bing, if you're still over there. What keywords are they putting into those platforms, and then putting that into my script or putting that into my outline so that we can execute on that. And then from there, your creative storytelling goes into play. That's from idea to publish. After publish is a whole different game.
Well, but I'm curious to hear what happens after that too, some of the tools that you use, and even for your clients, do they all use the same tools, or Do you have clients all over the place? I would love to hear a little bit more about that as well.
Most of the people that I work with, they don't start out with tools. They haven't launched a podcast. We're launching that together. Or they've just been using like iMovie to figure out how to edit this thing. All of the free tools that you could probably think of, they're using that. So after that published portion comes out, once we've gone from researching, pulled out all of the pieces that we can find that people are already interested in, recorded, so on and so forth, then what's the easiest way for somebody to absorb this piece of content? If I want them to come to this episode or this YouTube video, whichever one you want to use as your hosting platform, how do I get them there? What's going to make them tick? Down to the thumbnail, down to the YouTube shorts that bring them to that location. Are they curious enough to find out, oh, she said bananas are the best fruit? Well, why is she saying that? Let me go watch the full episode or the full video.
I love it. Yes. Okay, so you answer all of our questions so beautifully, which is fantastic. And if we could deep dive a little bit further, what would you say your process is like once a recorded episode is recorded, then what? Like, how do you bring it to life? What are your go-to things that you recommend every single creator do?
I like to listen to the raw footage of it or the raw audio of it while doing something else. Put myself in that position as the listener, and that will tell me what I'm interested in. If I found, I kind of zoned out for like 5 minutes here, maybe I need to go back and pull that out. So I'll literally go around the house, fold some clothes, wash some dishes, might go for a walk, and I'll have a little note next to me, my little notepad in my cell phone that tells me, okay, minute to this, I have no idea what I just said. Maybe this doesn't matter as much, because a lot of times, a lot of people like to stick to that 30 to 45 minute episode length, which is perfect for like the commute or a gym session, so on and so forth. So how do you actually stick to that time? You cut the crap that's not necessary in the midst of that. That all the ums and ahs is perfect, but there are some pieces that don't necessarily matter. So once you've done that, you have a full finished piece of content. But then you're still going to go back to that raw piece of audio or video and pull out what's the most interesting pieces that are here. This is where your short form clips are going to come from. What questions are people answering? So in that pre-section where I did the research before I recorded, there were very specific questions that people asked, and I probably answered those in the recording. So I can find the 30 to 45 second clips from there, and I can run those. I like to run those on YouTube first, YouTube or TikTok, just because it gives me the most honest feedback. There's a different kind of audience on YouTube and TikTok where if they don't like something, they're going to rip you to shreds and tell you this does not make sense, or I'm not feeling this, or this was perfect. Then I move those kind of short form contents to Instagram or LinkedIn, or whatever platform that is your cream of the crop. So a lot of times people end up stopping there, but those same questions that we pulled from the beginning, you can pull those same audios or those same clips and make blog posts out of them. Again, from a search engine optimization standpoint, we want this episode to be searchable. We know that Google is indexing podcast episodes now. So a portion of that is give the little things that are crawling the internet something to read by creating a blog post. And in that blog post, you're going to timestamp, hey, I'm talking about this at minute 23 and 57 seconds if you want to just listen instead of read. Because the reading portion, the blog post, is really for search engines. The actual listening or watching is for humans.
I just wanted to also kind of like add in what you were saying, that your podcast episodes are being indexed and, all of the search engines are crawling, but you're also wanting to tap into now the large language models, right? How do you show up on ChatGPT when, someone says, what are the best 10 health podcasts? Like, how do you get that recommendation? How do you get put in front of that? So I think that is a really important piece as well. Taly, do you want to add anything to that?
That was literally what I was going to say. I was like, I was going to ask her if she had any tips on, how to make sure that ChatGPT and all the other AI tools, they're being they're being able to find that content as well.
AI is something that I'm still studying from a search engine aspect.
Yeah.
It's new and also old at the same time, and it's moving so fast. I think as much content as you can put out there on the regular internet. The one example that I love going back to is Brene Brown. There was a show that she has, I think she has 2 or 3, that had not produced a particular episode in 2 years, and it was still in the top 100 charts of the business category.
Wow.
Largely because whoever her team is was managing the search engine optimization aspect so phenomenally that it was still pulling up in AI as what are the top business podcasts? What are the top Apple Podcasts conversations around self-improvement for women, so on and so forth. So really, I think as AI moves forward, I don't have any specific tips about that. But if you're playing the search engine game, AI is really just pulling the most popular blog posts or LinkedIn newsletters, so on and so forth. Even the LinkedIn newsletter that I do every Sunday at 10 a.m., I started pushing out a LinkedIn newsletter. Not necessarily for people to actually read. That would be great. I'm answering a question, but really I just want my name to show up as it relates to content management and podcast management.
I love
Yes,
that. Oh, that's a whole topic. I'm like, hold on. I I'll have to pick your brain about that afterwards.
And there's also a cool, well, it's somewhat new that search engines like Google and other ones, they're starting to pull from social media, so that, us putting content out there on social media using the right questions and the keywords, that really does bring an impact. And I want to jump into clients and operations. I want to talk a little bit about like client onboarding. You mentioned that you usually help your clients right when they're starting. So, what does that process look like today? And like, what are some of the key things that you do early on to set that relationship up for success? And even like guardrails and, guidelines that you have set up in place just to make sure that things go smoothly. I would love to dive a little more into that.
I think the onboarding is very much art and science as far as being able to understand people, what's going to be the fastest way to get information from people. So I'm logging into people's Instagram accounts or people's YouTube channels because I'm loading things up for them, so on and so forth. So the fastest way I have learned is, one, putting payment in the contract, or I refer to it as the service agreement, at the top. We are not scheduling any meeting until you sign that contract. There are some people who will submit payment and they won't sign the contract, or they'll sign the contract and they won't submit payment. And then they'll expect to be able to move forward with the meeting. No siree, Bob. Let's go ahead and get these 2 things underway. And even within the agreement or service agreement, I put in not just the legalese, but you're also agreeing to something I adapted actually this year is when I'm doing guest outreach for people. So I offer opportunities for me to find opportunities for people to be a guest on podcasts. But one of those things is you are representing my brand, the relationship that I'm building with other podcasters. So you can't just ghost when it comes to this. There's a list of expectations that are deep inside of that service agreement. So everything on paper. Then we're scheduling a meeting that gives me access, even if it's a 20-minute meeting, I'm getting access to all the things all at once. Because that was a hard thing for me to learn initially, because I'm trying to follow up. Hey, there's a code that just got sent to you. Can you send that back to me? Or there's XYZ. It was a headache. So let's go ahead and schedule that 20 minutes so that we can go ahead and just get access to people's information. And then for the most part, everything else is on me. We'll share an Asana project to be able to know what I'm working on, when I'm working on it in this particular Asana project.
Amazing. There's a lot of similarities. Like I've learned so much the hard way about the contract side. And there was this like loophole I'll share with you that I had when I first started my business, and not Northflow, like my agency, where in my contract it said monthly podcast management. but it didn't specify how many episodes. But I always build on a per episode basis, right? And so I had a couple of clients who like were ending, their contracts that, were moving on to different things, ending their show, like whatever it was. And I was like, oh, like, you have X amount of episodes still, not paid or whatever. And they were like, oh, but it doesn't say that in the contract. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I ended up being out like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It was such an expensive mistake. And so now you have to learn the mistake, right? So I like learned the mistake, and then I put in my contract, like per episode, cost per episode, 4 episodes per month. Any month with 5 episodes is this much. You know what I mean? Like you had to get so detailed and so specific. And I also love that you mentioned Asana, because like we all need a project management tool as well. And this is where I'm going to obviously plug in Northflow, because Northflow can help with this process as well. Everything from all the task management, all the project management, all the episode management, and all of that. So if you are interested in learning more, you can go to northflow.io and learn more there. But I have to say, I want to talk a little bit about your signature framework, because I want to make sure we touch on it before our time ends together. So your signature framework moves people from content to community to commerce. So for agency owners listening, or creators, what should we be thinking about at the content stage to make sure that we're setting up that full journey right off the bat?
With content, I like to move people to get views. So on top of, I'm working within the framework of content, community, commerce, which also mirrors how people are spending currency with you. And I don't think that people are always spending currency with you through money. People are spending their attention and their data as well as their money with you, which mirrors that content, community, commerce. So in content, you're thinking about how much attention can I get over here? How much engagement can I get over here? Which then teaches them, okay, I can expect a podcast episode from them every Tuesday. Okay, this is a funny clip, and then they're going to teach me how to do X, Y, Z. Oh, I like this so much. Let me go into their email newsletter, or let me go into their paid membership, which brings them into your community, which tells them, okay, this is valuable enough. I trust you enough. Let me give you my data. Then, as a person that does not excel in sales, I'm going to be very frank with you. So the wording that I have is very on purpose. I excel in the sector of I make people look good so that they can book the calls and then they do the selling. So content and community is my bang point. That's the main places that I'm looking for. In content, you want to get as many eyeballs as possible, which is why you are wringing that episode dry of as much as you possibly can, moving it from the episode to the social clips, to the blog posts, to the email newsletter, which takes that content and makes it on steroids, like I mentioned before. Then that makes them think, okay, they're giving all this stuff. She's able to post every dang on day. I'm seeing all this B-roll. It looks so fancy. What's behind closed doors? And now your coaching services, or now you get to sell whatever the thing is that you are selling on the backside.
I love what you're doing and how you're very specific on how you're guiding your clients. I really love that. I do want to go back to one thing that you mentioned earlier about repurposing. I know you didn't really go into a lot of details, but I want to go back there and ask about like repurposing at scale. There's always room for mistakes. So, like, what's one mistake that you often see with repurposing, and how do you help clients actually make their best ideas stretch across all the platforms in a very strategic way?
I think the number one mistake that people make when it comes to repurposing is offering something that nobody asked for. As far as,
Ooh.
Hold on, can you repeat that?
I think we're, to a certain degree, I think some of us are offering things that nobody asked for, and you think it's cool, or you think, okay, I just got to get as much as I can out of this. But nobody wanted that. So, and you're spending so much time and energy and frankly money, because your time is money, on something that is not going to return in any kind of way. And return could, again, be money, data, or attention. So I think if you're looking at the framework of how do I answer questions that people are already asking, then how do I move into, is there an email challenge that I can pull from this particular episode where every episode, maybe I pull in a freebie. Oh, you love this content. Let's move you into that community aspect. And you know that it because people are asking for it, which is why you spend so much time on the front end doing the research, understanding truly who you're talking to and what they're looking for content from.
I love that. Now, okay, Tajma, if we were to round out our conversation today, we like to pull in a couple of key takeaways from each episode just so our listener can go with something tangible for them to take into their day as they're continuing on in their day. So I have 4 that I think are really cool key takeaways. Let me know if you think that I'm missing any. But
Okay.
the first one is that podcasting is the most intimate relationship that you can have with your audience. So it's really important to know that the content that you're creating is going to impact them exactly when they're ready to hear it and receive it and need to hear it and receive it. The second one is it's so important, and the importance of testing and iterating and seeing what works so you can take that and you can either do more of it or you can do less of it to really hone in on your messaging. The third one I would say is building community to see a return. So whether that's money, data, or attention, you're going to get a return in some way. What does that currency look like? And the last one that I had was making sure that you're creating content that is asking questions so that you're actively solving people's problems before they even know that they have the problem, right? Because they're searching for something in order to have the problem. Would you add anything else to that?
I would say people probably know that they have a problem. So you're answering questions that people are asking. People know that they have a problem, but they may not know how to articulate it. A really good example I have is someone on LinkedIn posted that people like to lie about what their preferences are. So if you ask them, do you prefer regular beer or premium beer? They're always going to choose premium. But really what they're telling you is, I want the premium experience, not at the regular price. So answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So truly you're answering questions that people are already asking. And sometimes you have to dig deeper into who that person is. So being invested in people is really where your answer comes from, or the question that you can answer comes from.
Yes.
I love that. That's amazing. Taly, did you want to add anything before I close this out?
I do have one final question. So, if you were to go back like on day one when you start your company, what would be like one advice you would give yourself?
Oh, wow. Probably that everyone has no idea what they're doing. So it's okay for you not, and it's okay for you to reiterate, or pivot over and over and over, even if it feels like I can't tell you how many times I feel stupid in my day to day, like, girl, what are you doing? But everybody is figuring this thing out. And for you to do something that you have never done before, the answer is already out there. You just have to be willing to ask for the answer.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tajma. Where can our listener find you, and what next step would you love for them to take with you?
I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. And the next step is, I don't know when this episode is supposed to be coming out, but if it's before September 15th, go listen to the old episodes of the podcast. And after, the second season of How to Be Seen is up and ready for you.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I've loved chatting with you. I know Taly has too.
Yes, it was so great to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And you're so welcome. And we will see you all next time behind the workflow. Bye for now.